Behind me here is the grave of Andreas Bornedel. Bornedel himself served in the fields of World War I and came back from the war disillusioned with politics. In the years before, in 1919, Bavaria had split off into the Bavarian People's Republic, following that, the Bavarian Soviet Republic. Both of these were put down by units of Freikorps and disillusioned military men who'd returned from the battlefields. Bornedel and many others started joining these right-wing groups. Eventually, Bornedel found himself in 1923 wrapped up in something called the Beer Hall Putsch. This was a movement by Ludendorff, Hitler, and a number of other generals to take the government of Germany by force and enact their program of National Socialism. Bornedel was killed during this. They attempted to take the first beer hall, weren't successful, and tried to march onto the main government building here in Munich. When they tried to do this, they locked arms and started walking towards the police, and the police then opened fire. A shot hit Bornedel in the abdomen. When it hit Bornedel in the abdomen, he fell over, and it was a mortal wound, but he bled on the Nazi flag. This Nazi flag was spirited off by another member of the SA, or another member of the troop, and basically returned to the Nazi organization in 1926. And what's interesting about its return is that it went to the SS, not the SA. The SS only became a large organization quite a number of years later, but it shows that very early in this movement, the SS was a small, dependable circle of people. A group of people behind closed doors that operated in secret, almost unknown to the rest of the SA, who they would eventually later wipe out. And Bornedel himself was interred along with another good number of people who died in this initial confrontation at something called, well, it was the so-called Honor Temple in Munich. After the Allies took over, they dismantled the Honor Temple and they left the base of it because it was an unusual habitat for another number of unusual plant life organisms. But it was overgrown, and it remains so to this day, and it's hard to find it unless you know the actual GPS coordinates. After the war, they sent these bodies to various cemeteries, and it's hard to track them down. A lot of them, the families didn't want to reclaim them, and they kind of just ended up cremating them or burying over them. Another couple of them, like Andrea Bornedel, came to be interred in cemeteries like this one. What's unusual about Bornedel is that the blood that stained the flag that came from Bornedel actually was used in the most, I would call it the most sacred symbol of the regime from 1933 to 1945. This flag became their icon. They stored it in their brown house. In order to consecrate any other flag, they had to touch it to the blood flag or the Blutfahne, and this was guarded at all times by a special honor guard, and only a single member of the SS, a man named Jacob Grimminger, whose grave is now lost. They buried over him, and the flag was lost after the war. Nobody knows what happened to it. Now, Andrea Bornedel is simply just buried in his family's plot. There's no special monument to honor specifically what he did, and I think that might be for the best.